Captain Clara led her squad carefully across the rocky plains of Zenthra. The ground was rough and uneven, jagged stones jutting up like broken teeth from the dry, dusty soil. The sky above was painted in shades of deep purple and red, clouds swirling strangely as if the planet itself were angry. The wind carried a faint metallic smell, and Clara felt it stick in her throat, making her cough lightly. She adjusted her helmet and scanned the horizon, her eyes sharp, trained to spot danger. "Keep tight," she said, her voice steady but low. Her squad moved in formation behind her. There was Liam, a tall, lean soldier with quick reflexes. Maya, small but sharp-eyed, who often spotted threats before anyone else. And Seth, who was strong and steady, the kind of soldier you could count on to hold the line. Clara knew their strengths well. Each of them had fought together before, but Zenthra was different. This planet felt alive in a strange, threatening way. They had come looking for resources, some strange mineral that could power human technology far better than anything on Earth. But the moment they stepped onto the plains, Clara had a bad feeling. The rocks seemed to shift in the corner of her eye, shadows moving where no wind should touch them. She tightened her grip on her rifle, her boots crunching over the rough terrain as she signaled her team to stay alert. Suddenly, a shadow fell across them. Clara looked up just in time to see the first Zytherians drop from the sky. They were unlike anything humans had seen, tall, thin, with glistening green skin and long jointed limbs. Their eyes were black and shining, and they moved with terrifying speed. Clara's heart quickened, but her voice was calm as she barked orders. "Formation. Cover each other." The squad reacted instantly. Liam moved to the left, sweeping his rifle in wide arcs. Maya darted forward to higher ground, taking aim at the nearest creature. Seth crouched behind a rock, bracing for the first strike. But Clara had barely taken a step when she felt a sharp sting in her shoulder. She looked down to see a green-tipped dart sticking out of her armor. Pain shot through her body, sudden and intense. Her vision blurred and she fell to the ground, gasping. "No!" Liam shouted, rushing forward, but Clara waved him off weakly. Her mind was spinning, the poison already coursing through her veins. She felt her muscles weaken, her reflexes dulling. For a moment, panic crept in, the kind that threatened to paralyze even the strongest soldier. She heard the strange, clicking noises of the Zytherians as they closed in, their movements sharp and precise. The world felt heavy, like she was moving underwater, every thought slowed. Her squad fought back fiercely, covering her as best they could. Shots rang out and green blood splattered against the rocks. Clara's ears rang and she could barely move, but even in that haze, she analyzed the situation. The poison was fast-acting, but it seemed designed for weaker bodies, not hers. She could feel it trying to slow her heart, cloud her mind, but her human body fought back, faster than the Zytherians expected. Minutes, or was it seconds? Passed though it felt like hours. Clara focused, willing herself to move, to breathe. The pain receded slightly, replaced by a burning determination. Humans had survived worse. Humans had endured far more on battlefields across countless planets. And Clara refused to be the first to fall to these creatures. Slowly she stirred. A hand lifted, trembling but defiant. Her eyes focused, scanning the battlefield. She could see her squad struggling but still fighting, their determination giving her strength. She gritted her teeth, forcing her body upright, ignoring the ache in her shoulder. The poison was losing its grip, and Clara realized she could still fight. The Zytherians had underestimated her. They had underestimated humans. Clara grabbed her rifle, her hands shaking, and fired carefully at the nearest alien. The shot struck true, and the creature fell with a shriek that made her stomach turn. The others noticed her movement immediately, and Liam shouted in surprise. "Clara, you're alive." "I'm fine," she said, voice hoarse but strong. "Get to cover." The squad rallied around her, reinvigorated by her sudden recovery. Clara's mind raced. The poison was powerful, but she had overcome it. That gave her an advantage. They would not expect her to strike back so soon. She began assessing the terrain, looking for the best positions to launch a counterattack. The Zytherians were fast and cunning, but Clara knew humans were clever too. Humans could adapt, improvise, survive where others would fail. She signaled to Maya, who had climbed a jagged ridge, to take her position. Seth and Liam moved forward carefully, using rocks and debris as cover. Clara stayed low, her eyes sharp, watching the aliens move with precision. She noticed patterns in their attacks, small habits and predictable rhythms. The Zytherians were dangerous, but they were also arrogant. They thought humans were fragile, slow and weak. Clara smiled grimly. They were about to learn the hard way. One of the Zytherians leaped over a rock, aiming another dart at her. Clara rolled to the side instinctively and fired. The alien collapsed, twitching. Her squad cheered softly, but she didn't let herself relax. Each moment was critical. Each second counted. The poison had tested her and she had passed. Now it was time to fight back. Clara's shoulder still throbbed, but she ignored it. Pain was nothing compared to the chance to survive. She could feel the human edge, the resilience, the adaptability, the stubborn refusal to die. She moved with her squad, slowly pushing the Zytherians back, forcing them to rethink their attack. Every shot she fired, every decision she made, showed her that humans were not as easy to defeat as these creatures had assumed. By the time the sun dipped behind jagged cliffs on the horizon, the ambush had turned into a brutal stalemate. The Zytherians hesitated, confused by the humans' sudden recovery and skillful defense. Clara stood tall, breathing heavily, the dust of the battlefield coating her armor. Her squad gathered around her, exhausted but alive. She looked out over the rocky plains and felt a surge of pride. They had faced a threat designed to kill, and yet they had survived. Clara knew this was only the beginning, but she also knew something important. Humans were stronger than anyone, even the Zytherians, could imagine. They could be poisoned, attacked, pushed to their limits, but they would recover. They would endure. They would fight. And Clara Vance, captain and survivor, was living proof. Clara pushed herself upright, the rough rocks digging into her palms. She could feel the heat of the sun on her back, though the sky was still dark with alien clouds, a strange mix of violet and green streaks. Her shoulder throbbed faintly, but the sharp sting of the poison was gone. Her chest heaved as she took deep, steadying breaths, each one a small victory against the alien toxin that had attacked her body moments before. Liam knelt beside her, his eyes wide with disbelief. How are you still standing?" His voice shook, the fear of losing her clear in every word. Clara glanced at him and saw sweat running down his face, dirt streaked across his uniform, and the tension in his shoulders. He had been ready to pull her to cover when she went down, but now she was moving, breathing, alive. Clara smirked, though her lips were dry and her mouth bitter from dust. She wiped the blood from her cheek with the back of her hand, trying to look calm even though her heart was still racing. "They underestimated us," she said, voice low but firm. She could see the confusion on Liam's face, the way his mind tried to make sense of what had just happened. Humans weren't supposed to recover this fast from Zytherian poison, and yet here she was, fully conscious, fully alive. She stood fully, testing her weight on her legs. The pain in her shoulder dulled further, becoming a reminder rather than a threat. Her body had absorbed the toxin, fought it off, and was now stronger for it. Clara's mind raced with thoughts and possibilities. Humans were not just fragile creatures in the universe. Humans had something no alien science could predict: resilience, adaptability, sheer stubbornness. Around her, the battlefield was a blur of movement. The Zytherians were regrouping, circling cautiously now, sensing that the humans were not as weak as they had thought. Clara's squad was shaken but alive. Maya was crouched on a ridge nearby, scanning the enemies with sharp eyes, while Seth and Liam were moving carefully, covering each other. Clara's return to consciousness seemed to give them a renewed energy. Where despair had hung heavy, hope now flickered. Clara reached out to touch Liam's shoulder. "We're not done yet. Stay sharp." He nodded quickly, swallowing his fear. Clara could feel the strength returning to her body with every movement. The human body was amazing, she thought. No matter what these aliens threw at them, poisons, weapons, attacks, humans could push through. Humans survived. That thought filled her with an almost dangerous kind of courage, the kind that made soldiers unstoppable. She scanned the plains, noting the movement of the Zytherians. They were cautious now, slower, calculating. Clara realized they did not expect her to move so quickly after being poisoned. They thought humans were fragile. They thought they could end them with one well-placed dart. But humans were clever. Humans could learn fast. Clara smiled grimly. This was a battle, yes, but it was also a lesson for the aliens. Her mind shifted to strategy. Every second counted. The Zytherians might be confused, but they were still dangerous. Clara thought about her squad. Liam was quick, precise with his rifle, but he lacked the kind of instinct Clara had honed over years of missions. Maya was fast, small, and light on her feet, perfect for reconnaissance. Seth was the muscle, steady, calm, and reliable. And Clara herself had the advantage of experience, instinct, and now, the proof that humans could endure what the aliens could not. She moved carefully to a rock outcrop for cover, motioning her squad to follow. They obeyed without question, their eyes wide, still absorbing the shock of her sudden recovery. Clara crouched behind the rocks, her rifle ready. Her shoulder throbbed faintly, but she hardly noticed. Pain was secondary to survival. Her body had reminded her that it could heal, fight back, and adapt. The Zytherians, she realized, had no idea what they were up against. Clara's thoughts drifted briefly to the nature of the poison. It had been designed to stop the heart, slow the mind, paralyze the muscles. It worked on the aliens themselves and on other species they had tested. But humans were unpredictable. Humans' bodies were complex, full of systems and reactions that even the most advanced Zytherian science could not fully calculate. Her recovery was proof of that unpredictability. She could almost feel the poison leaving her system, being neutralized by sheer human endurance. She turned to her squad, seeing determination returning to their faces. "We fight smart," she said quietly. "We move fast. They won't see us coming." Liam nodded, gripping his rifle tighter. Maya's eyes sparkled with renewed energy. Seth straightened, giving a small nod of approval. Clara felt a surge of pride, not just in herself but in her team. They were humans, all of them, and humans were special. The Zytherians, meanwhile, seemed to sense a shift in the humans. Their movements slowed, their attacks cautious. They did not understand why Clara had survived, why she moved again, why her team was now more organized and focused. They had expected easy prey, weak bodies to crush quickly. But humans were never so simple. Clara's mind worked rapidly. If the aliens were cautious now, she could use that to her advantage. She started mapping the terrain, looking for natural cover, high ground, and choke points. She remembered the old training drills, the ones she had done countless times on Earth and on other planets. Even with her shoulder hurting slightly, she felt capable. Humans could endure pain, adapt, and respond with speed and precision. That was their advantage. Minutes passed, though they felt like hours. Clara remained vigilant, moving carefully to reposition her squad. Each step was measured, each movement calculated. She could see the aliens trying to flank them, probing, testing. Clara's pulse was steady. Her body was steady. Humans could take hits and recover faster than most species, and she was living proof. She crouched behind another rock, catching her breath and watching a Zytherian approach, green skin glinting in the strange light. It paused, unsure, and then moved on. Clara's team noticed it too. Liam whispered, "They're confused." Clara nodded, a smirk tugging at her lips. "Good. Let them be. They don't know humans yet." She felt something else, something she couldn't quite name, but it was familiar. It was confidence. The kind that came from surviving impossible odds. The kind that made humans fight on no matter what. Clara knew that they could turn the tide if they were smart. Humans were clever. Humans were adaptable. Humans were survivors. She would make the Zytherians pay for underestimating her and her team. Clara's shoulder was still sore, but it no longer slowed her. She could move, aim, and fight. Her heart pounded with adrenaline, but it was a steady, controlled force now, not fear. She glanced at her squad. They were ready. Their eyes held that same spark of determination. Humans did not give up. Humans did not surrender. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the plains. Clara knew they could not stay still forever. The Zytherians would regroup, attack again, and this time they would be more cautious, more dangerous. But Clara felt ready. Her body had healed faster than expected, proving a point to the aliens and to herself. Humans were strong. Humans were resilient. Humans could fight back even after the deadliest attacks. Clara crouched behind a jagged rock, her rifle resting against her shoulder as she scanned the battlefield. The Zytherians were regrouping, moving cautiously now, their once confident movements slowed by confusion. They had expected easy prey, humans who could be crushed with a single dart, and instead they faced a captain who had survived their deadliest weapon. Clara's heart raced, not with fear but with determination. This was the moment to turn the tide. She signaled to her squad. "We fight smart. Not fast. Not wild. Smart." Liam nodded, gripping his rifle tighter. Maya, high on a ridge above, waved her hand and gestured subtly. Clara understood instantly. Maya had spotted weak points in the Zytherian formation, gaps in their lines, areas where the aliens were overextended. Seth, ever solid, moved beside Clara, ready to follow orders. "Let's use what we have," Clara whispered. She gestured toward the debris around them, shattered rocks, alien machinery scattered across the plains, even broken parts of Zytherian weapons. "We turn their weapons against them." The squad moved quickly, gathering fragments of alien tech and pieces of jagged metal from the battlefield. They stacked rocks into hidden pits, laid down wires that could trip the Zytherians, and rigged small devices that would explode when disturbed. Every trap was simple but deadly, and every placement was calculated. Clara's mind worked like a machine, predicting alien behavior, anticipating their moves. Humans were clever, adaptable, and now they were prepared. Maya's sharp eyes watched from above, signaling silently with hand gestures. She had climbed high and hidden herself among the jagged cliffs, giving her the perfect view of the battlefield. Clara followed each signal, nodding and adjusting their positions. Every step they took was precise, every movement calculated to maximize the trap's effectiveness. The Zytherians began to advance again, unaware of the danger beneath their feet. Clara held her breath, waiting for the perfect moment. Her squad crouched, tense, every nerve alive. Then the first creature stepped onto one of the hidden snares. A wire snapped, sending the alien sprawling into a pit cleverly disguised with rocks. It screamed, the sound harsh and alien, and its companions hesitated, confused. "Now!" Clara shouted, rising and firing her rifle. The shot struck true and another Zytherian fell. Liam and Seth followed, pushing forward with precision. Every shot, every move, was designed to exploit the confusion the humans had created. Humans could think quickly, adapt quickly, and now they were proving it. One by one the aliens fell into the humans' clever traps. A sharp-edged rock crushed one, a snare tightened around another, and small devices rigged to explode sent creatures tumbling. Clara felt a surge of satisfaction, not cruel, but alive with the knowledge that humans could survive even the most cunning enemies. She moved among her squad, leading each charge, encouraging them and covering their backs. The Zytherians tried to regroup, but Clara anticipated each move. She used the terrain to her advantage, ducking behind rocks, leading enemies into ambushes, and drawing them toward traps Maya had marked from above. The squad moved as one, precise and coordinated. They were not reckless. They were humans using brains, courage, and instincts to survive. Clara's shoulder throbbed faintly from the earlier poison, but she ignored it. Pain was a small price for victory. She felt alive, sharper, faster. Her mind raced with calculations, predicting enemy movements, noticing patterns in their attacks. Every alien that fell reinforced her belief in the human strength. Humans were not just survivors, they were fighters, clever and unyielding. One Zytherian moved differently than the rest, slower, watching carefully. Clara noticed it immediately. Liam left side. Seth cover right. Maya mark it, she commanded. Her squad moved without hesitation. They had learned from her example, trusting her instincts. The alien, sensing it was being watched, darted forward too quickly and fell into a pit Clara had prepared earlier. The humans advanced steadily, slowly pushing the Zytherians back. Clara could see the confusion in their black eyes. The aliens were intelligent, yes, but they had underestimated one thing: human adaptability. Humans could learn in the middle of battle, improvise under fire, and act in ways the Zytherians could not predict. Clara felt a spark of pride. It was not arrogance, but the recognition that her species had something special. Humans could endure, humans could recover, humans could turn even poison into a weapon of survival. She glanced at her squad, seeing determination reflected in their faces. Liam's jaw was set, Maya's eyes were sharp, and Seth's steady presence was unwavering. Together they were unstoppable. The battle continued, the air filled with shouts, alien screeches, and the sharp crack of human rifles. Clara moved among her squad, signaling, firing, and coordinating. Every moment counted. Every small decision could save a life or end one. And humans were proving they could think faster, act faster, and survive longer than the Zytherians expected. Hours, or what felt like hours, passed in a blur of movement. Clara's traps had slowed the Zytherians, forcing them into predictable patterns. Her squad followed her lead, striking when the aliens were weakest, retreating when necessary, always moving with purpose. Slowly the tide of battle began to turn. The once feared aliens were now hesitant, their confidence broken. Clara paused for a moment behind a large rock. Sweat ran down her face, dirt streaked across her uniform, and her chest rose and fell rapidly. But she felt alive in a way she had not felt before. The Zytherians had tested her, tested humans, and humans had survived. They were fighting back, not with brute strength alone, but with intelligence, teamwork, and courage. She watched as a Zytherian fell into a trap Seth had rigged earlier, landing with a harsh thud. Liam fired, finishing it off. Clara smiled faintly. Every fallen enemy was a lesson, every successful trap a proof of human ingenuity. Humans could survive, humans could adapt, and humans could fight back even against creatures designed to destroy them. Maya's voice came quietly through a small communicator. "Clara, they're trying to flank us from the ridge. Left side." Clara's eyes narrowed. She had anticipated this move. "Good. We'll lead them into the trap." She signaled Liam and Seth, moving carefully to their positions. When the Zytherians advanced, they ran straight into a carefully placed snare. Several fell, others hesitated, unsure how to respond. Clara led the charge, firing as she moved, her squad following perfectly. The Zytherians were no longer attacking with confidence. They were reacting, forced into patterns, outsmarted at every turn. Clara felt a rush of satisfaction. This was what humans did. Humans could be underestimated, dismissed, even poisoned, and still survive and fight back with cunning and skill. The sun began to dip below the jagged horizon, casting long shadows over the battlefield. Clara paused briefly, looking over the plains. The Zytherians were retreating, regrouping, but they were not gone. They were cautious now, unsure, and that uncertainty was the humans' advantage. Clara felt a surge of pride and focus. They had survived the worst the Zytherians could throw at them and had begun to fight back. She moved among her squad, checking their positions, ensuring traps were set, and scanning the horizon. Every movement was precise, calculated, controlled. She could see the aliens' faltering hesitation in their steps. Humans were resilient, clever, and adaptable. Every shot fired, every trap triggered reinforced that truth. Hours of careful strategy, patience, and teamwork had shifted the balance. The humans had turned a desperate defense into a clever counterattack. Clara felt the rush of victory, tempered by the knowledge that the fight was not yet over. Humans had survived poison, ambush, and fear. Now they were fighting back, and winning. The Zytherians were no longer terrifying monsters. They were opponents, cautious and uncertain, and Clara knew humans could outthink them. She smiled faintly, feeling the pride of her species, the knowledge that humans were more than survivors, they were fighters. She glanced at Liam, Maya, and Seth, seeing the same determination reflected in their eyes. Together they would continue to fight, adapt, and survive. Humans were clever, resourceful, and unstoppable when working as one. The tide of battle had begun to turn, and Clara knew this was only the start. Humans could survive anything the universe threw at them, and now they were proving it. The Zytherians would learn the hard way that humans were not to be underestimated. Clara moved cautiously through the battlefield, her eyes scanning the horizon. Smoke and dust rose from the broken plains, and the groans and shrieks of the Zytherians echoed faintly through the air. The ground was littered with fallen creatures, broken weapons, and shattered rocks. Her squad followed closely, every sense alert. The humans had survived ambush and poison, outsmarted the alien traps, and now they were closing in on the heart of the enemy. Ahead, among a cluster of jagged cliffs and shattered spires, stood the Zytherian commander, Thane. He was taller and broader than the other aliens, his green-black skin glinting under the alien sky. His many-jointed limbs moved with terrifying precision, and his black eyes shone with intelligence and fury. Clara felt a chill, but it was excitement, not fear. This was the moment she had been preparing for. "Stay close," Clara whispered to her squad. "We take him together. One mistake and it's over, but we move smart." Liam tightened his grip on his rifle, his knuckles white, while Maya crouched high above, watching every movement from a ridge. Seth moved beside Clara, steady as always, his face set in grim determination. They were humans, trained and adaptive, ready for this final confrontation. Thane noticed them approaching and let out a low, menacing sound. He lunged suddenly, his long arms swinging, aiming directly at Clara. From somewhere on his body, he released a dart filled with a glowing green toxin, the same poison that had nearly killed her earlier. But Clara had already survived it once, and she had learned something important. Her body could recover quickly, and her mind could anticipate attacks with clarity. She ducked instinctively, rolling to the side and firing her rifle simultaneously. The dart missed her shoulder, embedding in the ground with a hiss. Thane froze for a fraction of a second, his expression one of disbelief. No alien had moved so fast after being poisoned. Clara's rapid recovery had thrown him off balance. She rose smoothly, moving with agility that her enemies could not predict. Her rifle was steady, but she didn't rely on it alone. Humans had another advantage: instinct. Years of training, experience, and survival had sharpened her reflexes to near perfection. Clara could read movement, anticipate attacks, and act in ways that aliens could not. Thane lunged again, faster this time. Clara sidestepped, her boots kicking up dust, and struck his arm with a solid punch. The alien shrieked, recoiling, and Clara followed with a precise kick to his torso. He staggered back, surprised by the force and speed of a human soldier. She pressed the advantage, moving like a whirlwind, striking, dodging, and using every small opening to her benefit. Liam and Seth took positions on either side, firing when possible, keeping the other Zytherians at bay. Maya signaled from above, pointing out gaps in Thane's guard and warning of any reinforcements approaching. The humans were coordinated, moving as a single unit, exploiting every weakness in the aliens' defense. Clara ducked under one of Thane's powerful swings and rolled to the side, grabbing a jagged piece of metal from the ground. With a swift motion, she jabbed it toward his chest. Thane hissed and recoiled, stumbling backward. His movements were sharp but predictable, and Clara had learned to read them. Humans were not as fragile as he thought. Their unpredictability, their determination, made them deadly. The alien commander's forces began to falter. They had followed him into battle, confident in their leader, but now their confidence wavered. Every movement Thane made was countered by Clara's agility, every attack parried, every strike returned with human precision. The humans had survived ambush, survived poison, survived traps, and now they were stronger, smarter, and faster than their enemies expected. Clara's shoulder still throbbed faintly from the earlier poison, but she ignored it. Pain was irrelevant. Focus mattered. Survival mattered. Victory mattered. She pressed forward, striking Thane again and again, each blow precise, each movement calculated. The commander hissed, his black eyes narrowing in fury, but Clara had learned something crucial. She was faster than he expected, smarter than he imagined, and unyielding in determination. She feinted to the left, drawing him off balance, then darted to the right, driving him into a jagged rock formation. He shrieked and fell hard, the impact echoing across the battlefield. For a moment, Clara froze, heart racing. Thane was down. His forces hesitated, confused and terrified. The humans had survived the impossible and now dominated the battlefield. Clara's squad moved quickly, taking advantage of the chaos. Liam fired carefully, picking off any Zytherians that tried to retreat, while Seth covered their flanks. Maya signaled from above, noting escape routes and guiding the humans through the safest paths. Every move reinforced the lesson. Humans were clever, adaptable, and unafraid. Thane struggled to rise, but Clara was already moving toward him, her movements deliberate, controlled, and relentless. She struck again, this time using her entire weight, pushing him to the ground. The alien commander thrashed, but his strength was no match for her agility, precision, and determination. Humans fought differently than aliens. They used brains and instincts, patience and speed, endurance and unpredictability. Clara embodied every one of these traits, and Thane was paying the price. Around them, the battlefield had changed. The Zytherians who had once been confident attackers now scattered in panic, some fleeing, some hesitating, unsure where to go. Clara's squad followed her lead, her presence inspiring courage and focus. Humans had survived their deadliest attack, and now the alien forces realized they were not invincible. Clara pressed her advantage, keeping Thane pinned, striking and dodging with relentless energy. The alien strength was formidable, but Clara's agility, speed, and instinct made her untouchable. She could anticipate every movement, every attack, every attempt to poison her again. Thane hissed in frustration, the alien realizing too late that humans were different than he had imagined. Finally, with a sharp, decisive move, Clara delivered the final blow. Thane collapsed to the ground, defeated. The remaining Zytherians froze, unsure what to do. Their leader was down, their strategy broken, their confidence shattered. Humans had not only survived, they had won. Clara stood over Thane's fallen body, breathing heavily, her shoulder aching faintly but ignored. She looked at her squad, their faces a mixture of relief, awe, and pride. Liam, Maya, and Seth had survived, fought, and outsmarted the aliens alongside her. Together, they had turned a desperate situation into a victory that no alien had expected. The battlefield was quiet now, save for the occasional groan of a fallen Zytherian or the distant sound of retreating forces. Clara lowered her weapon and wiped her brow, the dust and sweat coating her face. She felt a rush of pride not just in herself but in humanity. Humans could endure, adapt, recover, and fight back against impossible odds. They were clever, resilient, and relentless. She turned to her squad. "We did it," she said softly but firmly. Her words carried weight not just because of the victory but because of what it represented. Humans had survived the poison, the ambush, the traps, and now they had faced the alien commander, and they had prevailed. Liam exhaled heavily, a grin breaking across his face. I didn't think we'd make it, he admitted, shaking his head. Clara shook her own head, smiling faintly. They underestimated humans, she said. Always. That's our advantage. Maya climbed down from her high perch, landing gracefully beside Clara. They won't forget this, she said, scanning the horizon for any remaining threats. But we showed them humans are not easy prey. Seth nodded silently, his expression steady but proud. He looked around at the battlefield, at the fallen aliens, at his squad, and knew they had survived the impossible. Clara allowed herself a moment to breathe, to feel the weight of victory. She had led her squad through ambush, survived poison, outsmarted traps, and defeated the Zytherian commander. They had turned the tide of battle with intelligence, instinct, and courage. Humans were special, humans were resilient, and humans had won today. The alien forces scattered completely, leaving the battlefield quiet except for the wind and the dust. Clara looked around, her eyes scanning the plains. She felt alive, stronger than ever, and more certain of one truth. Humans could survive anything the universe threw at them, and when pushed to the edge they could fight back with precision, cunning, and unyielding determination. Clara lowered her weapon, feeling her body relax slightly, the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. She knew the Zytherians would regroup eventually, but for now the humans had claimed victory. They had faced death, poisons, and fear and had emerged triumphant. And that was the power of humanity. The battlefield was quiet now, almost eerily so. Smoke rose in thin, gray ribbons from broken machinery and scorched rocks, curling into the darkening sky. Dust settled slowly on the jagged plains of Zenthera, coating the armor of the human squad in fine grit. Clara stood at the center of the field, her chest heaving from exertion, her shoulders still sore from the earlier poison, and her hands shaking slightly from adrenaline. Around her, Liam, Maya, Seth, and the others were scattered in cautious groups, checking their surroundings, making sure no Zytherian ambush remained. Clara surveyed the scene carefully. The once fierce and organized Zytherian forces were now scattered and broken, fleeing in small groups toward the distant cliffs. Some had fallen into their own traps, others had been struck down by human rifles or improvised weapons. The air smelled of dust, blood, and burnt alien machinery. But most importantly, the humans had survived. They had endured. And now they had won. She looked at her squad members one by one. Liam was leaning against a rock, wiping sweat and dust from his face, his rifle resting across his knees. His normally confident expression was tempered by relief and awe. Maya stood slightly apart, surveying the horizon from a ridge she had climbed during the battle, her eyes scanning for any sign of retreating Zytherians. Seth moved slowly among the others, ensuring no one was left behind, his calm demeanor steadying the group. Each of them was battered, tired, and weary, but alive. Clara allowed herself a small smile. She felt the weight of the day pressing on her shoulders, the exhaustion of hours of battle, but also the pride in her chest swelling stronger than the fatigue. Humans had survived the poison, the ambush, the traps, and the cunning of an alien species that had thought themselves unbeatable. Humans had faced creatures designed to destroy them, and yet they had emerged victorious. She walked slowly across the field, stepping over rocks and debris, checking each trap she had helped set. Each device, each snare, each improvised weapon had played a part in the humans' victory. Clara felt a sense of satisfaction in seeing them all still functioning, or, in the case of broken traps, knowing they had worked as intended when the Zytherians had triggered them. Humans could adapt, improvise, and use what they had to survive, and now that skill had proven itself decisively. Liam approached her cautiously, still looking shocked. "Captain, I don't think any alien has ever seen humans like this," he said quietly. His voice carried awe and respect. Clara nodded. "They thought we were weak, fragile. Easy prey," she replied, her voice steady. "They were wrong. Humans are adaptable. We learn fast. We endure. And we fight back harder than they expect." Maya joined them, climbing down from her vantage point. She brushed dirt and dust from her uniform and looked around the battlefield with a mixture of relief and admiration. "They'll tell others," she said, her voice low but firm. "The Zytherians will learn not to underestimate humans. And even if they don't, we'll be ready next time." Seth came over, his steps deliberate, eyes scanning the horizon. "We're lucky to be alive," he said simply. His voice carried the weight of experience but also quiet pride. Clara nodded again. Luck had played a role, yes, but preparation, human intelligence, and adaptability had played an even greater one. Clara allowed herself to pause for a moment and take in the battlefield. Broken rocks, charred remains of alien machinery, and the scattered bodies of Zytherians stretched out before her. The sky above had shifted to a deep shade of violet, the wind carrying the faint smell of ozone and dust. It was a silent, solemn kind of beauty, the calm after the storm of battle. And in that moment, Clara felt a profound connection to her species. Humans were remarkable, not because of strength alone but because of resilience, intelligence, and the ability to endure the impossible. She thought about the poison, the first ambush, the cunning of the Zytherians, and how close they had come to defeat. But humans had survived. Humans had recovered. Humans had adapted and responded with skill and courage. Clara felt a surge of pride in herself and her squad. They were living proof that humans were not just another species in the galaxy. They were a force to be reckoned with. Her mind drifted briefly to the larger implications. Today the humans had won a single battle on a remote planet. But the galaxy was watching. Word would spread quickly through the Zytherian ranks about the humans who could survive poison, adapt in battle, and defeat their commander. Other alien species would take notice as well. Humans had just begun to make their mark, and Clara realized that this victory was only the beginning. Clara turned to her squad again. "We need to regroup and check our supplies," she said firmly. "We can't assume the battle is completely over. Other forces could be coming and we need to be ready. But today we've shown what humans are capable of." Liam nodded, checking his rifle and scanning the terrain. "They won't forget this," he said. His voice held a mix of pride and satisfaction. "Neither will anyone else." Maya crouched to inspect the traps one last time. "Some of these can be reused if needed," she noted. "We can set up a stronger defense if they return." Clara smiled faintly. Preparation and adaptability had been their greatest strengths in this battle. They had survived because they were clever, because they thought ahead, because they trusted each other. Humans were relentless, and the Zytherians would soon learn that. Seth adjusted his pack and looked at Clara with quiet respect. "You led us through impossible odds, Captain," he said. "I think we all know what humans are capable of now." Clara shook her head slightly, humbled but proud. "No," she said softly. "We all did this. Every one of us. Humans survive and fight together. That's what makes us strong." Clara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the battle and the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. She looked around at her squad, at the landscape of the battlefield, and at the horizon where the sun was slowly disappearing behind jagged cliffs. The beauty of the alien sky contrasted with the violence of the battle, reminding her that the universe was full of dangers, but also full of wonder. The humans were alive, victorious, and stronger for it. They had faced a species that thought them weak and had proven that they were adaptable, clever, and relentless. Clara knew that this was only the first of many challenges humanity would face in the galaxy. But now she also knew that humans could survive anything. Poison, ambush, cunning enemies, it did not matter. Humans endured. Humans fought. Humans won. She felt a quiet sense of pride as she glanced at Liam, Maya, and Seth. They were exhausted, battered, and weary, but they were alive. And in that survival there was power. In that endurance there was proof that humans were exceptional. Clara smiled faintly, knowing that this was the first victory of many. Humanity had left its mark on Zenthra today, and the galaxy would soon understand one undeniable truth: humans were not to be underestimated. Clara took one last look across the battlefield, feeling a mixture of relief, pride, and resolve. The Zytherians had been defeated, but more challenges lay ahead. More dangers waited in the stars. And yet Clara felt no fear, only determination. Humans could endure, humans could adapt, and humans could triumph, no matter what the universe threw at them. With her squad gathered around her, Clara signaled them to begin moving toward their ship. They had survived, they had fought, and they had won. And now the galaxy had learned something new. Humans were not fragile, humans were not weak, and humans were not to be underestimated. As they walked across the rocky plains toward safety, Clara allowed herself one final thought: this was only the beginning. Humanity had survived a test that no alien had expected, and the future held countless opportunities to prove their resilience, intelligence, and strength again and again. The galaxy was vast, but humans were ready. And for the first time in a long while, Clara felt the quiet, steady confidence of someone who knew her species could survive anything, because humans were survivors, fighters, and warriors unlike any other.